one alternate, the alternates taking full part in the discussions and becoming a voting member in the absence of a member or when a member abstains for conflict of interest. Members present tonight are Alicia Sweeney, Aaron Thomas, Shay Myers, who's normally an alternate and will be a full voting member today, and I'm Rob Delich, Chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Also present representing the city are Lance Allison, your title? Assistant Code Director, and could you state your name again, please? I can't remember right now. Excellent, thank you, and welcome both of you. So there's one case on tonight's agenda for the property located at 34 Elmwood Place. So right now I'd like to, one more thing. The board is required to take testimony under oath. Would anyone wishing to speak tonight concerning any item on the agenda, please stand. Sir. Do you swear to affirm that any testimony you will present to the board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You can be seated. So now I invite you to view a pre-recorded video of the rules of the board.
The Athens Board of Zoning Appeals operates according under the following procedure. The chair will name and describe the case. The zoning administrator or secretary will state the basis of the objection and any applicable facts or conditions pertaining to the case. The appellant or their representative will give reason why the appeal should be viewed favorably. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in general comment will be heard. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition will be heard. If necessary, the appellant or their representative will offer concluding summary or rebuttal remarks. Testimony from the floor shall be closed. The board will deliberate and render a decision. According to Athens City Code Section 23.7.3b, the board has power to grant variances from the strict application of the code, provided the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. The spirit of the code is observed, public safety and welfare are secured, and substantial justice is done. According to Athens City Code Section 23.7.10c, variances from the code shall not be granted unless the board makes specific findings of fact, based directly on the particular evidence presented to it, that the standards and conditions imposed in this title, if applicable, have been met by the applicant. Exceptional circumstances. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties or classes or uses in the same zone. Practical difficulty and undue hardship. Because of exceptional or extraordinary conditions pertaining to a specific piece of property. A literal enforcement of these regulations will result in practical difficulty or undue hardship that is unnecessary to the achievement of public purposes. Preservation of equal property rights. Literal interpretation of these regulations would deprive the appellant of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the same zone and the same vicinity, while a granting of the requested variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other properties in the same zone and the same vicinity. Minimum variance. The variance granted is the minimum variance required to make possible the reasonable use of the property. Absence of detriment. The authorizing of such variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the purpose of the zoning code or the public interest. Not of a general nature, the condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of said property, for which variance is sought one or the other or in combination, is not of so general or recurrent a nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation for such condition or situation. Any person, resident, or officer, department, or appointed body of the City of Athens aggrieved by a decision of the Board may petition the Athens County Court of Common Pleas concerning the illegality of the decision. Such petition must be filed within 30 days after the mailing of the decision of the Board to the applicant.
All right. So our case on the agenda, one case on the agenda tonight is case number 25-10V for 34 Elmwood Place. where the appellant is requesting a variance from ACC 23.03.11A1 to allow a 3-foot setback where 5 feet is required. So, Mr. Allison, will you give us your brief? Anything you need to tell us?
It's pretty straightforward, just like it says. They currently have a 3-foot, and they just want to be able to continue to use their 3-foot setback instead of doing 5.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Allison? I think we've done a few of these and understand what setbacks. So one thing I guess I will say is that the setbacks were changed last year. They were reduced by Planning Commission recommending to City Council and City Council passing those changes. So if a side setback used to be, I think, 8 feet, now it's 5. So that's the new number, is 5 feet for a side setback.
And there's already a structure there, right? The garage that's already there.
Correct. The zoning code didn't change for the accessory structures. It was
No, it
5
didn't.
foot, and it's still 5 foot.
Oh, was it for accessory structures separately?
Yeah.
Interesting.
One question I have, so, I mean, I understand we don't really have building code enforcement, and, you know, there's no one necessarily reviewing compliance with the residential code of Ohio, but the residential code of Ohio typically requires any walls, and I could be a little bit off in the specifics of this, but I believe typically when you're within 5 feet of a setback, less than 5 feet from a property line, there are certain fire rating requirements that are required for walls specifically that, you know, less than 5 feet from a property line. I'm just curious, like, in your opinion, does that come into play here? Is there, I mean, I don't think that's something that the zoning office reviews for or enforces. Is that a factor at all?
And in this case, probably not. But you're right. There is standards in the fire code that talks about the resistance rating when the distances get shorter. Mm-hmm. I don't know what those are. I would have to look it up. But as far as the zoning goes, it wouldn't affect us. But if we would have had a building department, they would have definitely had that answer and that concern to pass on to say, hey, this is what it has to be built at. This is what you have to use to meet the requirement.
And I assume it doesn't meet the criteria for a state building code because it's under 4 units, right?
Correct.
So state doesn't kick in here, it'd be up to the city, and without a building code office, this isn't something that would be considered, I guess it sounds like.
Right. It would be a recommendation from us.
And I believe that's typically a 1 hour rated wall.
Yeah.
You know, on that side, which is like it's usually like 5/8 inch chipboard on the inside and like a gypsum sheathing on the outside or something like that. It's pretty straightforward. So, I mean, that's probably best practice, I think, for a case like this, even if it's not going to be enforced.
Yeah.
All right, so any other questions before we go to the appellant? Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite the appellant to please approach the podium. So we need to have you on mic and camera here, being recorded. And please provide any pertinent testimony or give reason why the request should be viewed favorably.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me, especially when we're the only ones on the docket here this evening. We appreciate it. And my wife apologizes for not being able to join. Unfortunately, she was tied up with our kids this evening. But in terms of the property, as was stated, we already have an existing garage in this space with the 3-foot setback on that side. And in fact, our neighbor immediately adjoining us has a garage with 0 setback adjoining our lot. It's actually very, very common, as you're probably aware, in that area, for a lot of the accessory buildings to be closer than 5 feet in terms of their setback. Our goal is to improve that existing structure. It's basically falling down right now. We'd like to rebuild it, and we'd like to be able to take advantage of the existing foundation. To be able to move it to accommodate the 5-foot setback would actually require taking down a very large old-growth tree on our property, one of only 2, and significant cost to be able to do that, dig up the old foundation, move everything over. So from our perspective, it would be significant detriment to move that over. There's really no change to the existing distance that we have from the neighbor's lot. And in fact, they have a row of trees there that they've planted, so I don't think they have any intention of ever trying to put anything in that space that would be of a fire code concern, for example. There's no expectation of another structure being built on the neighbor's lot that would directly adjoin ours. Yeah, I guess that's the request. And we're hoping that you guys can see the benefit there and the lack of any detriment at the same time.
Any questions for the appellant?
So it's a two-story garage. Is it like a loft or?
Today, it's a one-story garage. We're, as part of the improvement, hoping to put a small apartment still within the existing footprint on top in order to help mitigate the risk of my wife's parents, actually, as they are aging, potentially needing a place to stay that could be closer to us. And it's far less costly to try to do that now while we're improving the garage anyway than to come back and do it as a second phase. So that's the goal right now. It's not intended for rental, just simply to have that space available to us for family.
Sounds good. Thank you for volunteering that.
Now with the code, would that be any issues, or are we just looking at just a setback?
We're still just looking at the
Okay.
setback. You're allowed to have those quarters for family there.
Yeah, it's quite a few of them over there already, so.
All right, no more questions? So why don't you go ahead and take a seat? And we'll continue with some formalities. So asking if there's anyone present wishing to speak in favor of the request. There's nobody here physically present. However, I received an email from Mr. Kurt Montel, who is residing at 30 Elmwood Place next door. And he said, please convey our support of the proposed work at 34 Elmwood Place. As an adjacent property owner, we appreciate the Thrasher family making sound improvements to their homestead over the years, including these proposed changes. The setback requirement under review involves our shared property line. We have no reservations for the approval of this variance. Respectfully, Kurt Montel. All right, so we had someone then speaking in favor, and there's no one here to speak in general comment or in opposition. So any more questions or things that come up in your mind for the appellant? All right, so we'll close the floor. If we need to, we'll call you back up if we have to. But
Sure. Thank you.
So are there exceptional circumstances? So,
It's so many different, there's so many things that's similar over there. It's a few of them that I saw, just garages with the second story on it, just on that street, so.
And I think one of the things that's pretty consistent about this type of property, which is really common, is if you do comply with setbacks and you're forced to and you can see this in one of the photos as well, you know, when you have to shift those garages over further, they become less functional because your driveway now, you know, you kind of impact backing distance out of the driveway and all of that. It's a pretty common, you know, kind of setup where you have narrow side driveway leading to the garage. Yeah, I don't know if it's an exceptional circumstance, but it's certainly a pretty characteristic of the neighborhood, and it does impact the kind of feasibility of, you know, being able to comply with these setbacks.
Yeah.
yeah, and if you if you look at what the appellant wrote too, it's pretty helpful in some of these, consistent with the established pattern of development in the neighborhood. Continued use of the existing foundation makes construction in place logical and efficient. So I guess the exceptional circumstances are that it would be difficult to meet the requirement because of the history. practical duty and practical difficulty and undue hardship. So I think it's always hard to define these two separately, right?
Yeah.
We tend to blur them a little bit, I think, but some of the same kind of things. The foundation and then the tree, I think more clearly undue hardship than exceptional circumstances probably.
Yeah.
Those kind of situations, does it warrant, meeting the actual requirement warrant all the difficulty that would be put on the individual to
Move
to
the
do
trees
this?
that you move over 2 feet, so.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't personally require that, shouldn't require that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're shrinking setback more than what they're already encroaching in. It's almost like a grandfathering kind of situation. They're just replacing and improving an existing structure in the setback.
Preservation of equal property rights. So let me say that my garage, I live in the neighborhood as well, a few streets over. And my garage is 0 setback on the alley, and maybe it's a foot on the property line with the adjacent owner. And that's pretty typical in the neighborhood, just like you said. It's exactly the way things were. And it would be very difficult to move a garage like that.
There's a couple other garages over there look new, like the same situation, sitting on the edge.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of this already going on in the neighborhood, and, the setbacks really aren't causing problems.
Yeah.
What's the term, legally non-conforming properties, or there's many of them, and they're
That's
really
what's
not,
in the neighborhood.
really not problematic.
How many cases we get from that neighborhood with that issue?
Things like this, yes,
Yeah.
it's pretty common.
Yeah.
Minimum variance. Are they requesting, what is a minimum variance here?
It's in the same footprint. It's going to be, really ain't changing much. You're just putting a new structure in the same footprint, so.
And I think leaving 3 feet is still, it's something at least. It's not going to 0. So I think it's not like he's moving over into and taking further space. So it does seem minimum to me. Absence of detriment. So the neighbor just said,
Yeah.
this is fine. That's one example. I don't think this would affect anyone else in that respect, but, so the one neighbor who would directly affect doesn't have any concerns. And his garage is already a 0 or 1 foot setback or something very small. Not of a general nature.
Half that street.
We get a lot of these, but I don't know if the city could reduce this setback further and for it to make sense. I think having some kind of setback probably makes sense. And
I mean, I think this is a case where the zoning code is still inconsistent with the reality of how a lot of our neighborhoods are actually built.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's of a general nature, but I think it is an inconsistency in the zoning code where, we're having to kind of, vote on these, basically vote on approving something that has historically been very common.
And they have fixed it with some of the updates in the.
Yeah.
yeah, although I guess I didn't realize it hadn't changed the accessory setbacks, that they were already at 5 feet. Is that a 5 foot rear setback too?
Side and rear.
Side and rear.
Now, the front change would affect the accessory structures because it was the same as primary structures to begin with. So the only change for the accessory structure would have been the front is now shorter.
So they could be 15 feet from, yeah, I think it's 15 feet from the front now, when it was 25. All right, so any other discussion or questions before we hear a motion?
Pretty simple.
Someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the request for variance from ACC 23.03.11A1 to allow a 3 foot setback where 5 foot is required for 34 Elmwood Place.
Do we have a second?
Second. Do you need the case number?
Yeah, did you not say the
Case number 25-10B.
Thank
I
you.
will second that.
All right. Call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. None opposed. You have your variance 4-0.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, make it look nice.
It can't look worse.
Yeah.
I like the addition on the back.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have one more piece of business, which is to review the minutes for July 8th, which Aaron,
We mess around.
Shay, we're all there. All four of us, so we're all there. Paul Isherwood is not present, but was there, so we have 4 present. So I do have one adjustment, is the not of a general nature finding should be a no instead of yes. It's a pretty common mistake, by the way. So I'd like to have that changed. That's finding number 6, not of a general nature, should be changed from yes to no in the minutes.
Okay.
So would anyone like to propose a motion, since I'm not supposed to do that?
I can. I have to include that amendment.
Or you can just, yeah, saying it's pretty easy, I think, right?
Yeah. I will make a motion to approve the minutes from July 8th, 2025 with the amendment of the findings number 6, not of a general nature, being no.
All right, do I hear a
I'll
second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Raise your hand. 4-0. Minutes are approved. With that adjustment, thank you very much. So our business is concluded. That was one of the fastest ones we've ever done.